Good afternoon, everybody. This is William Legault, the editor of Salem Digest, and we're here with the most recent edition of Salem Digest at the Round Table. And today we have a young gentleman, well, young to me, he may look at otherwise, by the name of Jordan Kinley, who's been living in Salem since 2012. Jordan is a road runner, a road racer. He's done some marathons, quite a few over the years, with a top time of 2:24 and change. We'll cover that a little bit later, which some of you out there may want to correct me on this. I'm looking at you, Richie Stafford. I believe that's the fastest time ever in the Boston Marathon in particular, but maybe in marathons overall, of anybody that ever has run out of the city of Salem. That's pretty fast, 2:24. Paul Ducey in the 90s and the 80s ran in the low to mid 2:30s. I remember that. So enough of me. I'm boring you already. We're going to get to Mr. Jordan Kinley. And Jordan, just where are you from? What are your origins? And what brings you to Salem? How'd you end up here?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Bill. I grew up in Northern California, Santa Rosa, California specifically. It's in Sonoma County, hour north of San Francisco. Beautiful place to grow up. Wine country, Russian River Brewing, which you asked me to bring some props, and I didn't tell you that this was part of it. I brought this box.
We'll get to the box later.
And this is a gift for you. I know you're a beer man yourself, but this is a beer from my hometown of Santa Rosa. This is Russian River Brewing, and
nice.
Pliny the Elder.
I've heard of it, but
one of their most well-known beers that they make, and I think people stand out in line trying to get their hands on that. And so I was lucky enough to smuggle some back here to Salem for you.
Well, now that I no longer hold elective office, I don't have to declare this gift. But that's very nice. It's my first Salem Digest bribe, and it's accepted. Thank you very much.
Enjoy. Merry Christmas.
I will definitely enjoy that. Thank you. I brought nothing for you.
That's fine.
Now
fine.
I feel like a stiff.
That's okay. No, I think you asked how I ended up in Salem.
Yeah.
And I wound up here for work back in 2011, 2012. I returned to New England. I had gone to university down in Rhode Island, and decided to make the trek back up to the cold north.
Did you have family in Salem?
I didn't. No.
Okay.
No.
All right. I thought maybe for some reason I thought you had family in Salem.
Once I moved here, I think there was a beautiful fall afternoon that my family was experiencing, and they sort of looked around the city, saw the leaves in October, and decided that they could see themselves in Salem, so they ended up purchasing a house and moved here for a few years.
Because I met your dad.
Correct.
Okay, correct. So I was a little confused for a second.
No, I was here first, and then he followed for a few years, but he's now returned to sunny San Diego.
He did. I think I've seen him once since he came back for a visit, and I did not know that he'd left. And he was involved in the Chestnut Street Neighborhood Association. He ran that for a while.
He was. We were lucky enough to live up on Chestnut Street, and he was, I think, the president of the CSA, Chestnut Street Associates, for a year, maybe two. Yeah, that's usually 1 or 2 year terms. Yeah. Except for the really hardcore people who really like to do that, and then they want to stay forever.
Yeah. Like anything else.
Exactly.
Like any office.
Exactly.
Elected, appointed, official, or unofficial. And now you and I met, or if you met me before that, I don't remember it. We met at the Nomkeg Ordinary.
I think
one winter. I don't know. Was it a winter night? I don't know.
I think you're right. I think I
was at one of the bar.
I'd certainly seen you walking around, and I think you were on city council at the time. And,
I was. Yes.
For some reason, I happened to come across your running resume.
You blew me away when you started doing that.
Yeah, and I think that was the. My opener, my icebreaker was something about your mile time at Nomkeg.
Yeah.
And I think from there it was.
You did. You touched on my running time. That was before this, folks. Well, it was 80. That was 80 pounds ago. That's absolutely amazing. And so, how did you run in high school?
Yeah, I ran in high school. I started running when I was a little boy. I was 9 years old. I think I calculated I've been running since for 27 years. Still try to get out daily for 45 minutes to an hour, something like that. And competed in high school, competed in college, ran a little bit afterwards, and I don't really compete anymore. But I stay out there long enough to stay thin and handsome.
Thin and
Yeah.
2 for 2. You got me on both. So you're still out running. You're still marathons are still in the mix.
Occasionally, I haven't run one since Boston 2017. I won't say that I will probably run another one. I just have to find the motivation to do it. And
Well, you got a few years to qualify for Masters.
Correct. Yeah. Maybe I'll make a 40 plus comeback.
Well, there you go.
A few years off.
I was running into my early 40s. Made it to my 50th year, but then the legs just they wouldn't do it. Just I can't run. It's more of a shuffle now. So your top marathon time is 2:24.
Yeah, I ran 2:24:46 at the what was at the time the Charlotte Thunder Road Marathon. It's now been, I think, converted into the Charlotte Marathon. That was a few years ago at this point. It was 2010. I had run the race in 2009, and I think I ran 2:27 or 2:28, something like that. And I wanted to come back the next year and try to break the record, which was 2:24:20.
Almost.
And I ran 2:24:46, which is exactly 1 second a mile off the pace I needed to run. So it was a little disappointing in that regard, but
1 second a mile is that it sounds like, well, it's so easy. It's not.
Correct. Yeah.
People don't. When I was in high school, we would, and we're running our mile times. The top guy on our team, maybe he could run. He could break 4:20 in a mile. But we talk about these marathoners and their average mile time. These top of the line guys, and they were basically taking our mile times and running 26 of them in a row. You go, that is extraordinary.
Yeah, it's quite impressive to see what some of the top marathoners in the world can do. Previously a very good time was under 2:05. Now a really good time is under 2:03. And you sound like 2 minutes is not that big of a deal, but when you break down the mile splits and the half marathon, it's a considerable jump.
The women's times are making quicker progress than the men's time, even though those kind of are stagnating a little bit now.
Yeah,
too.
you see,
down.
The last time they ran the Chicago Marathon in, I guess 2019, the world record was broken, and the woman who won was, I believe, 2:14 and change.
That's Bill Rogers' time, 1976.
Very impressive
Right.
performance by her.
So you ran in high school. You were a distance runner in high school?
I was
on the track and cross country?
Yeah, I ran the half mile, the mile, the 2 mile. I'd actually also run on the 4x4 to close out the meet, which was pretty fun.
Right.
But yeah, I had a unique mix of leg speed and endurance, and so running the mile just always seemed to suit me, and that was what I did the best in high school, and suited me fine in college as well.
But you were able to compete in high school in a half mile, so that shows some natural speed.
Yeah.
My cutoff for distance as far as the shortness was the old 1,000 yards.
Sure.
I could compete, but I couldn't beat the top guys, but I could be right behind them. Then once I got into the mile, it was a little better than that. But so you have some natural speed, which I don't.
I could fake it, yeah.
I was a 57-second quarter best.
Okay,
I'm assuming yours was
a little bit faster.
Yeah, a little bit. It seems like a little bit until you get on the track.
Sure, yeah.
And then it's not so small. So, and you went to school where again?
I went to Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island.
Oh, that's right. Okay, we talked about that.
Yeah.
And what years were those?
I graduated in 2006, so I was there from 2002 to 2006.
I can see why you like Salem after having been at Brown, because that's kind of a similar vibe down downtown.
Absolutely. And honestly, I don't think I would enjoy living in New England had I not experienced living in Rhode Island and living in Providence while I was in college.
Yeah.
I got familiar with there's like a inherent pessimism and like cynicism that the people have. There's which I love now because I fall into it, but there's a roughness until you sort of prove your merit in New England. And so coming from California and being challenged by some of my teammates' fathers and by my teammates themselves just for being, the soft West Coast kid, it was a fun challenge to step up to. But certainly had I not experienced that as a 18, 19-year-old, I would not have enjoyed
the Puritan attitude indoors. That Yankee ethic is just that old-time Puritanism.
Precisely.
We are tough, and people that aren't used to it have trouble adjusting to it.
Correct.
They find people from this area rude, terse, confrontational, and it's just the way everybody is.
Yeah, it's just interactions that I think now you might experience in like a coffee line or driving, or just common things that I don't know, just everyday part of life are certainly off-putting when you come for a short visit, or you're used to living in the South. I was living in North Carolina before I moved back up to New England, and you sort of forget that roughness, but very quickly I think I was able to fall into it, and I love it now.
It's endearing once you get used to it.
No, absolutely.
You very seldom wonder what somebody's thinking around here.
Correct.
So you're not running competitively now, but you're still going out how many days a week?
I still run 6-7 days a week. I think the last 3 months I've run 60 miles or more a week.
So you're just focusing on road work?
Yeah, just for, honestly, from, mental health in general, wellness. I just like getting out the door and going for a 8 to 10 mile run.
I miss that. You're making me jealous.
Yeah, it's just a good way to start your day, or, step away midday and get some runs in, get some miles in, and you feel refreshed, you feel re-energized, and I'm always able to come back to work a little bit more refocused. It's a time to run with friends. Outdoors, it's one of the safe activities that you can do, during the pandemic. And, we're not running that hard. It's a conversational pace, and we're chatting, we're sharing, stories about all sorts of things. It's just like the same way that you would meet up and have coffee with someone, or meet up and have a beer with someone, or have lunch. We go and run 10 miles together.
Well, these running groups have become very common, and the emergence of the various breweries around the North Shore, different breweries like Notch, I think does Gentilly?
I believe Gentilly has
does
a
running
weekly
club.
run, yeah.
I think they do one out of Granite Coast in Peabody also. So it is a social experience, which we didn't have back in the day unless you're on a team. But you got the Meters for Leaders group, you've got the Salem Running Club, various groups out there. It's nice.
Yeah,
it's nice. Yeah. I truly miss it. I've never done anything else in my life where once I got into that groove, everything else turned off.
Sure.
All you're doing is putting one foot in front of the other, clearing your mind. Because when you're running with a group, you're talking. But I used to just love those long, slow runs where the brain is off. All the brain is doing is moving your feet. It's therapeutic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're still running, just recreationally, no speed work.
There was, I run with the Meters for Leaders crew a couple times a week in a more formal setting, Wednesdays and Sundays. But we meet up on the sort of other days during the week, and not as a big group, but some of their text group guys to run with. Yeah. And it got put in a couple members' heads that they wanted to try and break 5 minutes in the mile for the first time. So that's now the short-term goal, and I think maybe 3 or 4 guys off the top of my head have never broken the 5-minute mile, and that's their next challenge for the spring. So I'll tag along and do some workouts, and we did actually a workout on Wednesday that I wasn't expecting, and it was fine. It was fun to run a little bit faster through the streets of Salem. We kind of just hit a couple of the bike paths. And took advantage of the roads before the snow came. I
did my first 5-minute mile sophomore year in high school. Freshman, I only ran the 2 mile, and I've told these guys from the running group that a couple of times. I'm not sure they believe me.
That's fair.
I don't push it.
That's fair.
You don't have to believe me. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So that's good. But to have something that's something they started doing this year during COVID. To push.
A couple of the guys had run a marathon this fall, and sort of after that there was nothing next on the calendar, and so we were sort of spitballing ideas, and the running a fast mile was something that is it's common in high school, but oftentimes when you are older, you end up trying to run longer.
Right.
You end up running, complete your first 5K, your 10K, you get up to the marathon, maybe even an ultra marathon. But it's oftentimes people don't run for time. They don't say they want to set a time goal. It's just they set the completion of a distance. But this was sort of to get back to the younger days. There's, let's go rip a mile and see how fast we can run it. So that's, hopefully we can do a few more workouts.
Trying to do some speed work with these guys, or release interval stuff?
Exactly.
Or what's the old school term for interval?
Yeah.
The fartlek?
That's what we did on Wednesday. We did a true fartlek. We did a loop down into South Salem, and then we came back through Salem State. We ran up Fort Ave, past the armadillos that everybody likes complaining about. Straight up Fort Ave into the Willows, a loop around there, and it was, I think we had 6 hard efforts on, and rested on the off, and it was.
Oddly enough, I never liked intervals, but I liked fartlek.
Okay.
Because fartlek is varying intervals, is really it all
exactly,
is.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I didn't mind that. I liked that. Intervals, actual intervals, go out and rip off 5 220s, then 3 440s. I never liked those. Henry Dunsky, the legendary Salem and Gloucester cross-country and track coach, used to bring us up to Bradley Palmer Park.
Okay, yeah.
And there was a spot there where they start the races. There's a copse of trees over on the left. And he had a mile marked out, and this was over hill and over dale. And when he was really wanting to sharpen our edges to a fine blade, we would go there and do mile intervals.
Okay.
1 mile intervals, and we'd do like 5 of them.
Yeah, sure.
And didn't have a long break in between either. And to this day, I hate those. I loved running the mile, but not 5 of them back to back like that. Intervals can be tough.
Yeah.
Fartlek can be tough too.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Tempo runs is another terminology that is common, and that's sort of just a long, harder sustained effort, and I'm not particularly good at those. So I prefer the shorter repeats, either on a track or just 1 minute hard on, 1 minute easy off.
Absolutely, yep.
is a very simple and common one.
Coach Dunsky had us. He was ahead of his time with high school runners as far as long, slow distance and lots of miles. Where everybody else was doing 30 or 40 miles a week, he had us doing 60, 80, sometimes 90 miles a week in high school. And he would encourage us to do the 30 miles a week during the summer. And on Sundays during the season, and we had meets on Tuesdays and Thursdays, on Sundays during the season, we would do 2-hour runs.
Wow, good for you.
He didn't care how much distance you covered. You'd just run for 2 hours, and we would do the 2-hour runs from a different starting point every weekend, and the objective was to circle Cape Ann during the season. I don't know if we ever actually did that, but we would just go out for 2-hour runs, social runs, slow runs.
Yeah. Now, where would you run? I know you grew up in Salem. Where would you run in Salem?
Where did I run?
Yeah,
or where would I? Well, we had our cross country races at Gallows Hill.
Okay.
And you know that big hill, the Gallows Hill, goes up to the basketball court?
Okay, yeah.
That was the beginning of the last loop. It was the hilliest course in the Northeast Conference. And any team that thought that they had a chance to beat us, when they came across, they would come down the hill from the water tank, cross the baseball field, go over that hump where the parking lot is, and they'd see that hill, and they know they were done. It was a psychological thing, because we always ran that hill. Actually, Salem runners at the time, we always ran any hill as hard as we could.
Okay.
Balls to the wall, an old school term.
Sure, yeah.
And it was a psychological thing. Buses would pull up, and they'd pull up right in front of that toboggan slide. And then they would see it. You had that up that hill, and you'd come down, and you had a series of 3 hills going up along the park, and then you'd go up to the water tower and come down. So basically, your last mile on our 3.1 mile course, no, 2.9 mile course, basically your last, just a little less than a mile, was 4 big hills, followed by 2 small hills.
Okay.
Yeah, so
okay.
it would, but I used to run all over the place. The original Salem 10K started at the Common, and ended up going up Boston Street and down Bridge and back to the Common. Bill Rogers ran that back in the day.
Okay.
So when I was still running, I used to run out of the Y, and I would just do the Willows route. Was mostly what I did.
Yep.
Up Ford Ave, down Memorial Drive.
Yep.
And maybe a couple of laps of the Common, throw in Winter Island. But that got harder and harder. Once the arthritis kicks in,
Okay.
you get to a certain point, it's not happening.
Okay.
I hope that never happens.
Yeah, I'll make note of that. Hopefully.
But mine started to manifest itself at 42, but I
Okay.
still managed to sneak out another 7 or 8 years before I just had to stop. So, but
Okay. Hopefully I have a few more years left. We'll see. I still refuse to
Paul
ride a bike.
Ducey was running into his 70s.
Okay, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah, and there's some guy, there's Fred Brown who just died a little while ago. I don't know if you ever knew Freddie. He ran, I think he ran R.J. Coins out of Pickering Wharf. He was on the Salem Marathon, or I think he
Okay.
broke 3 a few times, and he ran into his 70s too.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's a few out there.
Good.
You might be one of them.
I hope so. I hope so.
So you work for Carhu, which until I met you, I had never heard of them.
Yeah, I work for Carhu, where it's an old Finnish brand. It was started in 1916. It means bear in Finnish. We make
Not beer.
not beer.
Bear.
There is actually, there is a Carhu beer,
Oh, really?
but it's from Finland, but it's not associated to us.
Okay,
Yeah, we have we make sporting equipment, running shoes, lifestyle shoes, apparel. It's still privately owned. Our offices we're in Beverly. They're now in Marblehead. We have offices in Amsterdam. Our design and development center is actually in Italy. We have a concept store in Helsinki, and I've been lucky enough to travel to all those places and contribute on the running side over the years. So the brand is Finnish inspired and Finnish in heritage, but it has probably deeper roots in the U.S. and the Netherlands these days.
And there's a really strong tradition of middle distance and distance runners out of Finland. What Pavlo?
It was Paavo Nurmi was one
Yep.
of the first flying Finns.
Yep.
There was Lasse Viren was
Right.
probably one of the most recent flying Finns.
In the 70s.
He was a big competitor of Steve Prefontaine.
I remember yep.
At the 72 Munich Olympics. Lasse Viren won both the 5,000 and the 10,000, and then I believe he repeated at the 76 Olympics in Montreal.
Yes, he did repeat.
So the Finns, the flying Finns, have a long history at the Boston Marathon in the Olympics, and so we try to incorporate some of that in our storytelling and brand marketing. It's certainly part of the history of the brand, but we're now designing and developing our own sort of modern collection of shoes.
So other than the concept store in Helsinki, are there any actual storefronts anywhere, or is this all online?
Online, and we work with retailers.
Retailers, okay.
On the running side, we work with a franchise network of stores called Fleet Feet, and there are over 180 Fleet Feets sprinkled across the country.
Where's the nearest one?
The nearest one to Salem is probably Nashua,
Really?
New Hampshire. There's
Okay.
a Fleet Feet there. There's also one in Longmeadow. There's one in Hartford, and there's another in Portland, Maine.
So is that the shoe? Do you wear all Carhu stuff?
I wear exclusively Carhu shoes. I often, you'll see, unless I'm running, I'll be in our lifestyle shoes. I just think the casual lifestyle shoe is I don't know, has a good look to it and goes with a lot of outfits, and my running shoes are for running. So I personally, I work more on the running side, but when I'm just hanging out, I'm always in our lifestyle stuff.
Now, how did you how did you come across this company, or how did they come across you?
Yeah, I was an independent rep for a couple of years, and I looked after a small portfolio of endurance brands. Fuel Belt is sort of like a handheld water system. We had a high fuel-based product. We had Carhu shoes. We had an apparel brand and a couple others. And so I would go into running stores in a territory down in the Carolinas and look to place the product at specialty running stores like New England Running Company or Marathon Sports, those sort of local running hubs that you would go to get expertise on your sort of running and fitness goals. And so I was an independent rep, and a package offer was put together to bring me back to New England, and I accepted. And so I came back up to the area in 2011. And so I've been working closely with Carhu for, almost full time since almost 10 years. If you count the independent time, it's been a little over 10 years.
Well, I'm just going to come right out and say this, because I have a reputation as being a grouchy guy. You kids nowadays, you're just spoiled with all of this stuff.
That's fair.
Self-carried water systems. I mean, when my first day for cross country, 1975, would have been September 1975. I was thinking about playing football, 120 pounds. I said, football's probably not for me. Cross country, what the heck is that? It's running. Oh, I can do that. And I showed up with my Chuck Taylors.
Sure.
And I ran the first day. I think I was the only freshman there that day. A couple others showed up later. And I ran that day, and all of the sophomores, of course, they put a target on my back. Oh, this guy's looking for our spot. And we ran from the old Salem High School up to Tedesco Golf Course, took a break, sat on the wall for a minute, and came back. And I was the last one to get to Tedesco. And I decided that I wasn't going to be the last one going back, and I wasn't. But I did that in Chuck Taylor's.
Sure, yeah.
And then a couple of weeks later, when he had the team all sorted out, I don't know, the athletic director somehow got a deal, and they gave us all a fitted pair of the original Nike waffles.
Okay.
The bright lime yellow with the green, lemon yellow with the lime green, and that was like, and there was no support in those.
No.
But they were, we thought,
it's a collector's item. You should have kept them.
there was nothing to keep. There was nothing to keep. They lasted that season. They're just flat, the Nike flats. But to this day, I remember running in that shoe, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was like you were running barefoot, but you had that little bit of protection and that little bit of traction. Now, that's your walking shoe, your lifestyle shoe. It's amazing. I see it seems like they're getting away from those really big heels now, which I think had a detrimental effect on a lot of runners because they became heel strikers.
Yeah, it's, honestly, I'm not a big proponent on where you land on your foot. If you land on the heel, the middle, the forefoot,
put it in your natural stride.
Yeah, it's you don't really need to mess with the landing point. It's where your body positioning is above that. So as long as your center of gravity is as long as you're over the center of gravity, you're fine. So as long as your heel or your foot's not so far out in front of you or behind you, you'll be relatively injury-free. And shoes will accommodate that. There's certainly some that, there's heel-toe drop. Some shoes are completely flat from the difference between the heel and the toe. Others have up to 12 millimeter difference. And it's honestly, it's personal preference. Some people like a lower drop. Some people like a more traditional drop, and frankly, people have run fast in both. People have gotten injured in both. People have stayed healthy in both. It's just a factor in what you may or may not like.
I remember a kid, I think he was a Beverly kid, I'm not sure, it might not have been, but you could hear his foot strikes. Slap.
Yeah.
But he ran. And he ran good times. I'm a ball of the foot roll off. And in the 90s, when I started wearing those shoes with those big, thick cushions, I started having calf issues.
Okay.
I think it threw my stride off, and then I got away from those. But it's really amazing where they've come with shoe technology.
Certainly, yeah. We're now getting into personalized and 3D modeled shoes. These are all stuff that brands are working on. And we'll see if we can come to market with them. There's, the traditional way has been, you do it in molds, you do it in large quantities, large volumes, and it's fairly efficient. But the future of shoemaking is, can you do it one-offs in an economical manner.
Now, when you're going in now to get, you're a top echelon runner, or you're a recreational runner with some money to burn, and you're looking for a custom shoe, they still look at your stride, I assume, and try to design around that. I had the first guy to do that for me was Bill Rogers' brother.
Sure.
At the running store at Faneuil Hall, and that's when I was having that calf issue. And I said, I'm looking for a new shoe. I said, I'm not happy with these. I'm getting these calf cramps, and I think I tore my calf. And he take your shoe off, and he says, walk across the floor.
Sure, yeah.
Now run a few strides across the floor, and then he goes, you want this.
Yep, gave you an analysis,
And it worked. I mean, it's such a simple thing.
When I first moved back here, that was on my account list, and I was lucky enough to go in there before they closed it, but it was, I think, in the later years, more of a museum than it was a retail store.
Yep.
But it was fun going in there and talking to Bill's brother, who's with the big beard and the braids, and Danny, who is the store manager, who actually I believe lives in Salem.
Really?
And it was, just. I mean, you could talk running with those guys all day long. Sure. They had memorabilia from Bill's career, from just the 70s and 80s, and you can just walk around the store and sort of ask them about, this piece and that piece, and they would tell you about it. And you, again, as someone who appreciates the sport and the history of running, I got more out of the visit just talking about running than I ever did in any actual business transaction from those
good guy
guys.
to talk to, because it was a subject. He loved it.
Yeah.
And he followed Bill's brother followed, what's his name? Do you remember his? I don't remember his name. I'm shameful. But he followed schoolboy running also, and he knew, he knew who was who and what was going on. It was he was a good guy. Now Bill ran some races in Salem over the years. He ran the Heritage Day race a couple of times.
Okay.
And in the 90s. Might even been the late 80s. Pete's Wicked Ale. It was an old, one of the original craft brewers.
Okay.
Pete's Wicked Ale. They used to do a road race out of Pickering Wharf, a 5-miler, I think it was. Or was it a 5K? I think it was pretty sure it was a 5-miler. It was a popular distance for a while. And I had run that one day, and I didn't know that, I didn't know who else was in the race. And then as I was walking down Derby Street, I ran into Bill Rogers, who was looking for something. I recognized him right away.
Yeah.
Ended up chatting with him for a couple of minutes, but he ran the Heritage Day race. He ran he ran races in Salem back in the day.
Interesting.
So a lot of them did.
Yeah,
Clarence DeMar ran races in Salem.
Okay.
Back in the day. So Salem got a lot of history. Got a lot of running history. The high school, not so much now, but I think that, and you may agree with this, soccer and lacrosse have taken away from the distance running community in high schools. A lot of the kids that would be really, really good cross-country runners or good milers or 2-milers are playing soccer or lacrosse in the fall instead of running. We saw that when I was in high school. Coach Dunsky used to carp about a couple of the players that were on the soccer team. He's going, they're stealing the runners. Which they did, because there's a crossover there.
Yeah, I grew up a soccer player, and when I got to high school, both cross country and soccer were at the same time in the fall, and I had to really pick which direction I wanted to go. And ultimately, I chose running out of the likelihood of what I could do in college and being recruited for it. If you run a particular time, it's cut and dry, and you can say you ran 4:15 in the mile.
Very straightforward sport.
If you scored 23 goals in a season, that maybe you were in a really good league and 23 is a lot. Maybe you were in a terrible league and 23 is nothing.
Right.
So
the clock doesn't lie.
Correct. Yeah, clock doesn't lie. So I made the decision to give up my soccer playing days, which was tough because I was a decent soccer player, but I don't regret it. But yeah, certainly there were some other soccer players that I grew up with that could have been
but
wonderful
soccer
runners.
might not have taken you to Brown University.
Perhaps not. Yeah. Perhaps not.
You never know. You never know, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Dunsky he was upset about soccer. Then lacrosse came along.
Sure.
And it just drove him nuts. because he's a guy, actually, he was kind of a bulky runner. He was kind of like the guy with the ball cap in the 60s.
Dave Waddle?
Dave Waddle.
Yeah,
He ran like Dave Waddle. He waddled. I mean, but he was a 4:12 miler at Bentley College in the early 60s, which was for college. At the time, 4:12 now, well, a lot of high school runners are running that. But you can't compare the times.
It's funny, I actually will have to mention that because one of the guys I run with here in Salem, his father was competed at, now I'm going to question myself, either Bentley or Brandeis. Actually, may have been Brandeis. In the, I believe, the 60s, 70s, and was a very good runner on their, I think on their runner-up, national runner-up team. And so, the history of the sport certainly has evolved, but also, I mean, you have to learn from those guys.
Oh, sure, and everything's changed. In the 70s, there were really no national high school competitions. Those didn't come around till later. You would get to your state meet, and in the 70s we had an actual all-state meet, which they don't have. They got some sort of a amalgamation now that creates an all-state champion, but there's no actual all-state meet for cross country. Now you got all these Foot Locker events.
Sure.
I mean, our big thing was the year we won the state title, we went down to Connecticut to run in what they called the Mass Con meet. They took like the top 10 teams from Connecticut, the top 10 teams from Massachusetts, and you ran. And I think we won that. I don't remember if we won that. Well, we should have. I don't know. But now it's, they got these Foot Locker, there's national championships, which is different.
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, the state meet in cross country in California was, there were 5 divisions, 5 being the smallest, 1 being the largest. So you technically crowned 5 boy state champions and 5 girl state champions. When it came to track, that all went away, and you had a true state meet, and it was amazing. It was, the level of competition to even qualify for the state meet was an accomplishment in and of itself.
Sure.
And so I always find it strange that states still keep the division system in track when there's certainly functional and good ways to have everybody compete against everyone else, and just it's purely who's going to cross the finish line first, whether it's the 100 meters or the 2 mile. Seeing I'm not a big fan of the division system, and so I think going to the national level, there's now Nike Cross Nationals, and there's still Foot Locker, which has kind of divided the world of who's the true national champion, because they often don't race one another. But regardless, seeing top teams and top individuals line up and go head to head, it's often you can actually definitively say this person is the fastest high school girl, high school boy. Unfortunately, at the national, at the NCAA level, that replicates itself with national meets.
Right.
So again, you get to crown like truly the fastest individual of the NCAA system.
It's a great opportunity for the runners, for the kids anyway.
Sure.
And Salem, as good as we were in the 70s, we wouldn't have competed with some of these really top national teams.
Sure.
There's actually a website out there that's not too active that made some comparisons over the time. They named the top cross-country teams of the 70s or whatever.
Okay.
Of 1977. They named the top cross-country teams of 1977. And I don't know if it was Archbishop Cathedral or I don't know. But basically, they were talking about this one team out of New England, and Salem got a casual non-mention by saying the next best team lost to them by X amount of points, and that was us.
Okay.
They didn't even say it. They were, but there's just no comparison. You get national. high school sports are taken so much more seriously in other places than they are in New England.
Well, we're going to have to bring it back because I have a little boy now. I think you've seen running around
I've seen
Notch
him.
and whatnot. So if he chooses to be a runner and compete, we're going to have to figure out how to get Salem back to the
Comes down to numbers. We didn't have a lot of numbers back in the day, but we had arguably the greatest, and this is not, I'm not overstating, arguably the greatest schoolboy distance running coach in the country at the time. He's in the Massachusetts Coaches Hall of Fame, of course, but this guy, he was doing things that other people weren't doing. Like he had us doing long, slow, he just called LSD, long, slow distance. He had us doing a lot of it too. We were running more than everybody else. Some people claimed that he burned out. We didn't have a lot of successful college runners because he burned us out in high school. But we had a Division III All-American out of that.
Sure,
so,
yeah.
But he was also, he was into biorhythms. He didn't know if they worked.
Okay.
You're charting your body system against the tides.
Okay.
It's a system. If you Google it, you'll find it, biorhythms. And it will tell you when your peak physical days are and your peak intellectual days. And they do it off your birth date. To me, it's just another goofy take on astrology. But
sounds very Salem, though.
it was very Salem, but to him, it was just another tool to have in the belt that might work.
Okay.
And he did that for 3 years. He charted everybody's biorhythms. And he would vary workouts for individuals some days based on those biorhythms. And I think in the end, he decided that it didn't work.
Okay.
But he was using it anyway.
Yeah, it's the fascination and actually
will this work?
intellectually trying to figure out if he could apply it to
will
running.
this help? And he was doing interval work like nobody else. It was absolutely amazing. He would tell you when you're good. He would tell you before a race, without actually using the words, this is going to be your good day.
Okay.
You're going to run your best time today. And then you'd go out and do it. And other times he'd say, Bill, we don't really need you too much today. You're not going to, this isn't your day anyway, so you just go out and you take that guy and you stay with him. But now whether or not that was just a psychological game, but he was ahead of everybody else.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was something. So now, who you get a high school? Did you have good high school coaching?
Yeah, I was fortunate to have very good coaching in high school. It was when I ran youth track in my hometown. I was fortunate to have Danny Aldridge was my coach, and he was a sub 4-minute miler. He had already coached a number of very talented athletes. I believe he was, or he still might be, on the American record holding 4x1500 meter relay team. And the only reason that he's on it, I mean, they obviously ran very fast at the time. That race has never competed anymore, is never contested. So he's been on that since the
he's in the books forever.
Yeah, early to mid 80s. So I was fortunate enough to have Danny Aldridge write workouts and mentor me during high school. And then when I got to college, it was a gentleman by the name of John Gregorek. And John Gregorek, his son now is actually very talented. But John Gregorek was a 3:51 miler. He's also, I believe, the current under 20 American record holder for the steeplechase.
Oh, so nice.
They
still run that?
Oh, yeah. Steeplechase is a brutal event. Just toughness, and you're going over 36-inch high. I think they're roughly 6-inch thick wood barriers. So if it's the same height as the hurdles, the 400-meter hurdle barrier, but if you knock this with your knee or your foot, it's not moving.
It's going to hurt.
And then you also have a water jump. And the water jump, throws in the fascination of, who's going to trip and fall and land in the drink, and it always sets up for, some snickering and photo opportunities when someone actually does end up soaking wet.
Did you do any steeplechasing?
I was a little injury prone in college, so they kept me away from the steeplechase. But so John Gregorek actually made the 1980 U.S. Olympic team in the steeplechase that didn't go to Moscow, I guess. During the boycott. Yeah. But anyway, he was a fantastic runner himself, but also even a better coach in person.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so he looked after my training throughout college, and so I've been very fortunate to have.
So are you
good
coaching
coaches.
yourself now, or do you have people that you consult with? Or when you were competing recently, or if you were going to start competing again, do you coach yourself, or do you have somebody's a group of people maybe that you consult with?
I have a former teammate that I ran with. He sort of guides the training. We kind of collaborate back and forth of what I should probably do, and it just helps hold yourself accountable by having somebody else look over the training, to know that if you're supposed to do a workout or a long run, or supposed to race on a certain day, that you actually do it, because someone else will be disappointed in your lack of effort.
Right,
so
sure.
For the most part, I will write the training, but I'll certainly look it over with somebody else that I respect and I think could help me just.
So you get another perspective,
Exactly,
and it gives you a little accountability.
Exactly.
Which is good. That's what coaching has coaching even beyond running has become basically more of a career field than it used to be. It used to be you just coached to school.
Sure.
Now there's personal coaching, there's life coaching, there's guys that'll just coach you online, send you workouts, you send them back your times, your splits, and so there's
an interesting phenomenon that takes place. Even if you go to the track knowing that you're supposed to do a workout, and there's one person in lane 7 just kind of walking, and you have to go and you're supposed to hit these particular splits, and it's going to be hard, and you don't want to do it, and you're trying to psych yourself up, and just having that one person there, because you're thinking to yourself, what if I run too slow? That person's going to think like I'm lazy or I can't do this. That person really doesn't give a crap about what you're doing. They don't even know you're on the track, don't even know you're doing a workout, but it's simply that you're playing mind games with yourself to get any sort of advantage.
Sure.
And that happens, frequently. I still go to the track and think people are watching my workout and they have no idea what I'm doing. But just having a group, having somebody look over your training, having people hold yourself accountable, works wonders. I
used to always, even if I was out on a casual run, even later in life, if I saw somebody up ahead of me, I just had to catch them.
Sure.
I just had to. In high school, I think one of the keys to our team was, and I don't know if it's something that Dunsky fomented or if it just happened naturally, we competed with each other in practice. We were chasing each other in practice, and all the time.
Yeah, it's classic. When I travel for work, a class I end up running on bike paths or around lakes or something like that, just really popular places to run to get out and be with the locals. But I love getting into a good jogger war where you're running along and you catch somebody and they you get 3 strides ahead of them, and then you start hearing that they're matching your pace and they're trying to come back on you. And I love that this this little unofficial race is starting, and pretty soon you go from running 7-minute pace to 6:30 pace to 6:15, and then at a certain point you just have to pull the trigger and just take off and see if they can come with you. But I love getting into those little mini battles that are totally meaningless.
Even if you're only the only one fighting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Always in any race, I was always the next butt that I saw in front of me, I was after it.
Yeah.
And then the next one, and then the next one, and if somebody came up behind me, I got really irritated.
Yeah.
I ran angry.
Okay. Yeah,
I did.
Sure.
I ran angry. I did. I absolutely ran angry, which
it's
is
a good motivation.
That was my MO. I ran aggressive and I ran angry, and when I passed somebody, I passed them close.
Okay.
I was one of those guys.
Sure.
Not necessarily nice, I suppose, depending on your perspective. But if I could pass you and have this much space between us, I would rather have this much space between us, because I wanted you to know.
Yeah.
I'm here now. I'm going to pass you, and you won't see me again. So it's surprising. I talk to some people that have never really ran competitively. They don't understand how competitive a foot race can be.
Sure, yeah.
It's personal a lot of times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you do it when you're just running in practice.
Yeah, I mean, we, in high school and college, you would get into, it usually happens on the days that you're not feeling particularly good and you want to take it easy. And, you just, whatever, your legs are tired, or you ate too much at lunch, or you're just not feeling in the mood to run fast, and so you try to take it easy, but then you have a teammate pushing the pace, and you might normally always beat that teammate, but today is their day that they're gonna, step up.
They have.
And you're eventually gonna start getting competitive, and sometimes the run gets out of hand, and you end up running like way too fast.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's certainly fun. At the end of the day, it's certainly fun.
You have days where the coach says set this pace,
Yeah.
and you guys end up setting a faster pace,
Yeah.
which the coach probably doesn't mind.
Sure.
Now, I'm sure you've run into this in your high school, your college career, and even in your road racing career. There are people out there, like any other sport, they're practice athletes.
Sure.
Their best performances are always in practice.
Mm-hmm.
I had guys in high school that I couldn't beat in practice, even if I wanted to. I had guys when I ran at Fort Carson and in Germany in the Army, they would dominate practice, but not race day.
Uh-huh.
And that I never understood. I could never figure out that mindset. How can you be so good in practice? But you see it too if you watch a basketball, a high school basketball team. You got this kid that's running everybody ragged on the practice court, but in the game he doesn't do it.
Yeah, I don't know what goes into that. Certainly, there's an element of psychology that plays a role. I was fortunate enough that my best performances usually came on race day.
I was a terrible practice runner.
Yeah, I was about equal. And I certainly had teammates that could just run completely mediocre workouts, nothing impressive, standard times, and all of a sudden they would pop a race off that was just way out of their, what was seemingly their ability level. I never had one of those performances in my career, really, that was like such an outlier. I always fairly knew what my fitness level was and what I would be capable of running, and I would ultimately just go out and do that. But I do appreciate, someone who doesn't run a lot of miles or doesn't run particularly hard, but like on race day, they're just lights out, and it's unbelievable the pace or the times that they put up.
It's the human body and the human mind. Nobody's been able to figure it out.
Yeah.
I wasn't a good practice runner. I wasn't a terrible practice runner, but I never did. I was never at my best in practice.
Sure.
My best performance race day. I was a race day guy.
Yeah.
And I like to give myself credit for that. But there was a guy when I got to Fort Carson. I didn't want to. I got forced by the sergeant major. My first day at Fort Carson was the day of the PT test.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
So I was 26 years old. The night before the PT test, I'm the new guy in the barracks, and we're all drinking beer and talking about the PT test, and there was this medic who claimed he held the battalion record. Everybody always holds the battalion record. Right? Everybody always holds records. And he told me what time he was expecting to run, and I was in pretty good shape at the time, and I said, I think I'm going to beat you. And we ended up betting a keg of beer.
Ooh, okay.
Half a barrel. And so we ran. They didn't have a track at Fort Carson. We would go up to either the Air Force Base or up to the Air Force Academy to run on the track occasionally. So we ran on an old runway, straight up and straight down, 2-mile run, straight up for a mile, straight back for a mile. And him and I beat him by like a hair at 9:49 they had me at, which pretty good time for. I wasn't expecting to run that fast. To this day, I kind of wonder if that was a slightly short course.
Okay.
But I ended up winning that keg of beer. But the sergeant major was there that day, and he ended up making me run track for the next 2 years. I didn't want to do it. I was 170 pounds, 50 pounds more than I was in high school. I was a good 170 pounds. Made me do it. Dirty. I was going to curse. We can't run this after midnight, so I can't. Well, we could run it after midnight, but we don't want to. So he made me run for 2 years, which in hindsight wasn't a terrible thing.
Sure.
And I ran some really, really good times, but you just never know when you're going to pop out.
Yeah.
I put the pressure on myself, then I paid the price.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I know. Obviously, having someone to push you is always a. You get the best performance out of yourself. I remember one of my first memories of racing somebody was, I must have been in the 2nd or 3rd grade, and we're just on the blacktop at the elementary school, And I think they would line up 3 or 4 kids, and the winner would move on to the next round. And so me and my buddy Nick Reed ended up matching up in the finals. So you have the entire school around, or a class around at least, to watch this. I don't know, we must have been running 40 meters, something like that, 30 meters, not very far. Just going, him and I, who was the fastest kid in the class type thing. And we just had to, it was whoever's going to slap the teacher's hand first. And he was a little bit bigger than me. So we think, I'll admit it, we think that the teacher sort of moved her hand back, and it allowed me to slap the hand first because
teacher was playing favorite.
Yeah, so I got there first. But no, it's competing has always been fun.
So you gave the teacher a beer before that?
Exactly. There was a lollipop or an apple in those days. I mean, again, I don't compete as much as I do, simply because I think my fastest times are probably behind me, but I do enjoy just getting out the door and being with friends. But it's, I was, very lucky and fortunate to run 4:05 roughly in the mile. I'm never going to touch that again.
That was in college.
In college. My 5K time is, I would be lucky to run within a minute and a half of it these days, and that would take a lot of training and dedication to even be able to do that. And I'm fine with that. That's where I was 15 years ago.
Right. Well, you'll set different goals.
Yeah.
'Cause especially when you get to Masters, which is a while off. Do you have any desire to coach?
I do. I've written training plans and coached some people in the marathon. And I found it fully enjoyable. It was awesome. It was amazing, particularly when they go out and run well.
Right.
I like I think all coaches like the coaching aspect.
Sure.
They don't like the administration and the extra that goes along with being a coach.
Nowadays it's crazy. I helped out with the girls track team for Richie Stafford, and Richie Stafford was probably the last coach in Salem, if not on the North Shore, that could get away with putting his hand on a young girl's hip while he's talking to her. Because he didn't mean anything by it, but he could do that. I'm there as the assistant coach, and I'm seeing him doing that, and I said to myself, don't do that. It's a different world now. Makes it more difficult.
Yeah. No, I have aspirations to coach later in life soon. Again, my little boy who's 6 now, if he decides to run, I would certainly want, if he wants me to be involved with his training, and I think he could.
Well, Salem High could always. Actually, Salem High, I'm not sure. I'm not even sure who's coaching at Salem.
Yeah,
I'm sure whoever it is doing the best job that they can. I'm not taking a shot at anybody. But again, the numbers. I don't think Salem will ever get those kind of.
Yeah, that's
people, and they work today too. Kids in Salem, instead of competing in sports, got a job too.
Sure.
A lot of communities are like that. So maybe it'll be Coach Kinley in the future.
I wouldn't rule it out, but I won't go on fully on the record to say yes.
All right, so we're gonna close this out. It's been a pleasure, Jordan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're gonna have whatever links you provide with us to put on the credits for you, for your running club, for Meters for Leaders, if they want to do that, for the Salem Running Club, and for Carhu. It's been an interesting conversation. And we're just going to sign off from let me see, how am I going to put this? From an above-average running schlepper from back in the day, with somebody who is beyond a schlep and actually one professional here.
I'm a recent has-been.
Soon-to-be has-been.
There you go, perfect.
But till you get to the Masters, and then you won't be a has-been anymore.
Okay.
And so it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is William Legault with Jordan Kinley. 2:24 and change marathoner. If anybody knows of a faster marathon time from a Salem resident ever, please reach out and let me know, because I don't think there is. So this is William Legault with Jordan. This is Salem Digest. Thank you very much, and we're going to sign off. Have a good day, Salem.